Thanks for joining me, guys. Today I'm going to show you how to save a bunch of books in Rage Shadow Legends. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go over all of the login champions you can get in the game, especially, starting from early game all the way into late game. And I'm going to show you which ones are worth investing your books in and which ones are worth completely skipping and just saving yourself a bunch of books. Because we all know by now, books are not easy to come by, and wasting them on a bad champ is one of the worst things in this game. So let's get right into it. Alright, so I'm not going to be able to show you here because my account is, a little experienced, so I don't have access to them, but the first 1 to 2 you're going to be able to get is either Shaman, after 7 days logging in consecutively, or Ninja, depending on when you're playing and watching this video. So we'll start there. Shaman is a complete waste of books. Don't do it, you're wasting your time, you'll save yourself a lot of books. Use her for a little bit early game if you want. Don't waste the books on her. It's not worth it. You'll get rid of her so fast. Ninja is worth it. Obviously legendary books harder to get, but he's a solid champ all the way around. He's good in dungeons, he's good in clan boss, he's just pretty useful overall, especially for having early access to him in the game. He's really solid. So if you're playing at the time where you can still get him, awesome. He's worth it if you feel like investing in him. Shaman, no go. So for the daily login ones, we're going to start here with High Katoon. Worth it. Good in arena, good in dungeons, speed aura, useful throughout the game. Sometimes she can even still be useful in the late game because she has a really good skill, setup going on. So she's a reliable one. Definitely not a waste to put your books into her. Yaga the Insatiable. He is a waste of books. If you need help in clan boss really early in the game for some poisons, use him, take him to 50, do whatever you want. I wouldn't recommend putting any books into him. It's a complete waste. You'll regret it later. You'll find better poisoners in the rares and other epics, legendaries if and when you get them. There's so many better options. I wouldn't waste any books on them. Dark Hazel. She has a really weird skill setup, and I would say she's very niche. I personally would not use books on her and use this champion. If you particularly like her, I do not think she's a bad champion. So this particular one I would say is very, not viewer discretion, I don't know, decide for yourself. If you like her, do it. I don't think it's a waste. I wouldn't personally though, especially because you would get her after 90 days, which you'll see going forward here, being how late you get them, kind of, plays into whether or not it's worth it. But I wouldn't. Don't feel bad if you want to. The next one, Dark Elhain. This one's pretty good. She's a very hard counter to a lot of freeze champions in the game, though she still can do some pretty heavy AoE damage on her own with, I want to say, a freeze. I'd have to look into her skills to see for sure, but I've used her a little bit and I've seen a lot of people use her. She's really solid. I wouldn't feel bad about putting books into her at all. And then, Lordly Legionary. This guy is good for Fire Knight and Fire Knight only. If you get to the 150 days and you're having an incredibly hard time pulling any characters good for Fire Knight with multi-hit skills or multi-hit A1s, then by all means book him, use him, get that extra help in Fire Knight. If you don't need a lot of help in Fire Knight, skip over this guy and save yourself the books. There's better options out there, but if you need that role filled, he will do that for you. And then, my personal favorite on this entire list, Sill of the Drakes. She's a very solid champion. Reviver, AoE stun, passive that heals every turn, a decreased speed A1. She can hit fairly hard, defense-based champion. She is 100% worth all of your books if you like her. I would do it in a heartbeat. She's such a good champion. I still use her in a lot of my teams. She carried me through a lot of Doom Tower, carries me through a lot of dungeons. She can be useful in arena, though it's not my preferred place for her. Pretty much anything but clan boss and arena, I would say, are the only two things where she's a little weaker, but everything else in the game, she's really solid. I would book her in a heartbeat. Tainix Hateflower, however you pronounce that name. Don't do it. The only useful thing she has in her kit is a slight heal and an A1. That's a random hitter, but only if you place decreased speed. and you have to do multiple hits, you know, an AoE decrease speed, blah blah blah. The only thing she does is decrease speed, really, and that's about it. I wouldn't waste books on her. There's a comp out there where she'd work really well with, but I don't like her. I don't really have a use for her besides a little bit in faction crypts. I would save your books, especially, again, seeing that we're getting really far into the daily login, and if you don't have even better rares by the point you get her, you're doing something wrong. She's not particularly good. At 240, which I haven't even quite reached this one yet, so this is really far in, considering I'm level 66, 67, something in there. But Grush the Mangler, he is good. He has a leech on his A1, he's got some other skills going on, and a pretty decent passive healing, or the heal, 15% heal per turn, whatever, all that fun stuff. He's pretty solid. I think he could be really useful in a lot of clan boss teams. Some dungeons too, probably. I don't think he'd be very good in arena. But I don't know, I'm actually kind of really curious to give him a try and see, because a leech in clan boss could be really nice. Be able to replace using lifesteal sets entirely. So again, really far into the game by the point you get these last couple. But he seems like a pretty solid champ. I would book him personally, so go ahead and book him. Don't feel bad about it. He seems like a pretty good champ. And then the last one, at a whopping 270-day login period, Vizix the Unbowed. So I actually had to change my opinion a little bit here. So again, obviously I don't have her yet, really far into the game, but I was kind of interested in her, and I was looking over her kit and thinking she'd be pretty cool, and then I got an epic or two, I can't remember. I got a few people that do a few similar skills, and I realized just how underpowered she is. She does a lot. She has a kind of a mixed kit, but one of her main things is provoking. You know, being tanky, making everyone attack her, that kind of fun stuff. But she only has it on a single target, and there are epics with AoE provoke that have better complementary skills to that. So honestly, she's pretty cool, and hopefully maybe they do a little bit of a rework, or, you know, a buff or something to her eventually, but for now, I would not waste your legendary books on her, sadly, especially considering that sooner you get Sill of the Drakes, who's incredible and totally worth the books, because I actually just finished booking her recently, and like I was saying earlier, it's well worth it. She's awesome. It's great. This one pales in comparison. It's just useless almost. So I wouldn't go waste a bunch of books, especially if you're trying to do free to play. I wouldn't do it. Not one little bit. And then the last little extra bit we got here is we have the monthly shard collection for Cleopatrix that they replaced. What did they took out a 5-star chicken and a sacred shard, and instead gave us 25 shards for Cleopatrix per month. So what is it? I think it's like 4 months for one legendary. It's a whole nother video in itself, and I think pretty sure a lot of people have already covered it, but it's an absolute garbage change. Terrible, terrible change. Not a fan at all myself. And we'll go find her here real fast, but if I also recall, she's not a particularly exciting champion. Not my preference visually. I guess, you know, the wings and the flying and the spear are pretty cool, but I'm not really into animals turned people all that much, so this is not my preferred aesthetic. But on top of that, she has a hex, which no one else in the game really does. There's like one other champ I can think of that does anything hex. Nothing real exciting here. Perfect Veil is okay, I guess. A Weaken's not bad, though it's a lower chance. Increased crit rate, okay. Block active skills, again, okay. I'd much rather just stun or deal a lot of damage, so that's unexciting. And then another weird attacks all enemies, has some chances for some debuffs, but really just nothing too exciting. Counter attacks with passive skill. Every time this champion loses 30% of her HP or more in a single hit. Always counter attacks if 2 or more allies are dead. I don't see it. I looked over here a little bit closer on my own, and I don't see it as not worth the Sacred Shard. And considering she's still a login, I'll go over it. Don't waste your books. Just don't. Again, by the point you get this character, you should have a decent roster of legendaries, even being free to play. Save the books for Sill. Hell, save them for Vizix the Unbowed instead of her. Just don't do this one. It's a waste, guys. I don't think it's worth it one little bit. And there you have it. There is my quick list to all of the login champions worth and not worth booking. So hopefully this saved you some books. Hopefully you have at least a rough idea of which ones are worth looking at closer or not. There's a bunch of channels that do really good, individual character breakdowns and guides. So if you like someone from this list, I'd suggest go looking up a guide for a character, find some more specifics, see what they're really good at, how you should build them, champion guide, all that fun stuff. I'd say go check one of those out. And yeah, you guys have a good rest of your day. Thanks for watching. Bye.